everybody, welcome to Blooms and Brushstrokes. I'm Krista and this is my channel. For those of you that are new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy the tutorial, and for those of you who are returning, thank you so much for being a part of my community already and for subscribing and for all your comments and engagement and all that great stuff. I really truly appreciate it. When you guys are interactive and subscribing, that really helps to push my channel out to more viewers. And so the more people that engage, then the more exposure my videos get and the more people get to enjoy the fun tutorials. So welcome to you all. We're gonna do a tutorial of an iris. And so the last couple shorts that I've posted, I've done a little bit of extra line work in there, kind of doubling up and being a little more carefree as far as my line work goes, and I've been really having fun with that, and lots of people have enjoyed those shorts. And so I thought we would do one of an iris with that little bit of extra Micron ink detail to finish it off, as well as some metallic ink or metallic paint to finish that off as well. I think I am going to use this Speedball gold calligraphy ink for the splatter work in the end. So the supplies that I'm using today are the Mungyo paint set. I'm using those because I love the brightness of the colors. And today we are going to play around with some yellows and greens, bright colors again, because here in Saskatchewan, Canada, it is still gloomy out. And if you guys can imagine, we got more snow this week. So I'm going to keep it bright and sunny because it's very gray here. So we're going to be sticking with greens and yellows for fun. Keep it bright, keep it exciting. So it doesn't matter if you have the Mungyo paints or you don't, and you want to follow along, just find whatever paints you have. Those are the colors we're going to be sticking with. As you know, if you've been following my channel, I mix these colors together. So by the time I use them, they are not exactly what's on the swatch. And it's like, I just use them till it's a color, or I mix them till it's a color that I feel is what I want to use. But as for a baseline goes, if you're not into mixing color, we'll be using greens and yellows. So find what you have that are in those tones and those colors, and then we'll do them or use them. And then if you don't love green and yellow and you want to try different colors as well, that's totally cool. 100%. So I'm using the Canson watercolor paper that I've been talking about. I have this huge pad of it. I did bring it out of my spare room today to show you guys. This is what it is. This is the pad, and see, it's so huge. It's massive. It's just not practical for doing these tutorials. I mean, maybe one day it will be, but at this point in time, it won't even fit in my camera lens. So, and it's just not what I use. So what I've been doing is I've been cutting it into smaller pages or pieces. So I cut it into 4, and then sometimes I use the bigger pieces, which are one of this size, or then I fold these in half, and then I cut these pieces in half, and then I use those. So you get a lot out of one. But so it's not the best watercolor paper, but for practicing, it is perfect. So if you guys want to get something like this, you can get it probably at any art craft store. I think I got this, it was years ago. I think I got it at Michael's, to be honest. I can't remember how much it was. But that kind of paper is perfect for practicing. When you're getting into doing higher quality paintings and you are maybe wanting to use them as prints or you're wanting to sell them, then definitely your paper does matter. And I would bump it up into, I really enjoy the Stonehenge block papers. I also like Arches watercolor paper. Those are both really nice types of paper to use. So, but for the sake of practicing and just doing some exercises, this Canson paper is perfectly fine. So you don't need to go and break the bank on it, anything. If you want to use better quality paper, by all means, do that. It's just not really in my budget to use high quality paper for practice paintings. Anyway, so for the most part today, I'm going to use, as I said, the Mungyo paint I will finish off some detail with the Speedball gold ink, calligraphy ink. Why do I use this? I've had that question a few times. Why am I using calligraphy ink? And the reason I use it is because of how highly concentrated it is, and you can really see the shine when you use a calligraphy ink. I find sometimes, and I do love watercolor metallics as well, but sometimes I find I don't get that brightness, the saturation that I want with it. So that when I started using metallic, I started using the calligraphy ink, Winsor & Newton in the metallics, and then I just picked this one up one day and I really love it. Okay, so that's why I use that. I'm using the number 8 Aqua Elite round brush. I'm going to probably use a 10-0 liner brush, and whoopsie daisy. I will also be using the Micron archival ink pen 01. The finer, the better, but I think 01 is about perfect for me. I have a couple 02s and a 03. Those are not too bad, but I like the 01 the best. So I'll be using that, and otherwise I've got my blotting paper here beside me, my paper towel, and then I'll have this I was just warming up before I was getting going for this tutorial and just slapping down some paint. So I'll just use that to dab my colors on to try out. And that's another thing that I do before I get into a tutorial or I get like really serious into trying to paint a picture. I will always just start by putting some strokes down and putting some dots down and putting some water down, just kind of reminding my body about the strokes and the muscle memory and how much water to use and all that kind of stuff. Because just as anything in life, it's good to kind of warm up before you do it. You're not just going to go outside and go for a run. You're likely going to stretch your legs a little bit before you do that. So that's kind of why I do that with the paint. All right, so I think that's everything before we get going. Get all your supplies together and let's get started on this tutorial. All right, you guys, so we're gonna get going on with this painting here. As you can see, I have a little bit of the iris that's sketched out in there. That's just so I can keep track. So if you guys want to do a little sketch before you get painting, by all means, go ahead and do that because it'll help you kind of stay on track a little bit as far as this goes. So I will drop a screenshot of this so you guys can screenshot it yourselves. Or if that doesn't work, because I accidentally forgot to take the picture before I started to erase some of the heavy lines. So if this doesn't work for you guys, then just go and look up a simple drawing of an iris online. I'm sure you can find something quite similar to this and just do like a little bit of an outline. It's just gonna help us to keep track of how much paint we're using and then for our line work. So anyway, you guys, as I said, we're gonna be going to town here with some yellows and greens. So we're gonna use lemon yellow, we're gonna use the yellow green, we're probably gonna use a little viridian, maybe a little deep phthalo green, and who knows, maybe for fun we'll pop in a little bit of Russian blue, maybe some of this light blue. I'll try to let you know what I'm using as I'm going, but as you know, I like to mix a lot of my paint, so it never ends up being exactly what is on. You guys can see for yourself. Everything is mixed. So I like to have fun with that. I want to see quite a bit of yellow in this painting. Sorry, you guys, I'm having a struggle getting organized here today. So we don't want to add too much green in. We want to add quite a bit of yellow. So we're going to do the same technique as we've been doing with the dots. So we're going to go, and I'm going to start off with the lemon yellow. So it's the brightest one that I have, as you guys can see. And we're going to just get quite a bit of that on our brush, on the tip of our brush. And we're going to go, and you can kind of see where the petals are. I'm going to go and drop a couple dots in these petals. There's the 3 of them. There's a couple petals coming out back. We're just gonna let those be for right now. Then I'm gonna use the yellow green right now. Nice bright. I'm just gonna put one smaller dot down. And Perhaps we will do one little dot of the Viridian green because I want to see a little bit of that in there as well. We don't want it to be overpowering though. So clean off your brush and dab it off until you get your desired wetness. And we're gonna go in and we're gonna start with this top one. So we're gonna start by putting water down and then just brushing up. And you can kind of wiggle your brush a bit. And we're gonna come up this other side. I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna clean off my brush and I'm gonna just dab it a bit dry and I'm gonna pull up a little bit of that into the center. There's not a ton, that's a-okay. We want to keep it pretty bright with that nice white in there. So we're going to pop over to this petal over here. Start with putting your brush down close to the center and then dragging it through and wiggle it as you go just to kind of get that texture. Just like so. Clean off your brush, tap it off a couple times, and then we're going to get onto this one here. And you can wiggle your brush, or you don't have to if you want them to be smooth. Just like so. That I think looks great. I am going to get a little bit of that yellow, and I'm going to just dab some down in the centers here, because I want it to be a little predominant down with the yellow in the center. I think those look really good. So I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow green and just kind of add a bit of detailed line with that. Not a ton. It's like, this seemed to be like a little too stark. I'm just gonna go and kind of pull that a bit with a little bit of a clean brush and just soften that a bit. You don't have to if you like the way that looks just as it is. I think that looks way better. Yep, love that. All right, so while those are drying, we can go on and there's the little, it would be the remnants of the bud where the flower comes out of, and then the stem here. So we're gonna work on that. And we're gonna do it in, let's go with sap green. Sap green with the hooker's green. These two here, we're gonna use those. Now I don't want them to be too overpowering, so I'm not gonna put in a lot, but I'm gonna do a little dab here and a little dab here. And then a little bit of that hooker's green. Kind of coming down. Oops, I think I used the wrong one. Nope. Maybe, okay. I'm actually gonna use a little bit more of that sap green down here. Okay, so you're gonna get lots of water in your brush, tap it off. Again, like I've shown before, get your brush wet, and then just really tap it on the side till you can kind of see that it's not dripping anymore. We're gonna start in the middle and we're gonna pull that water down. And this you can kind of go more straight because this is more smooth around the edges. I'm gonna start with the water up here and just pull it down and create that stem. I think that looks great. Some people may feel they have dots. Sometimes that happens. You can go in with your clean brush. If say like right here, there's a little bit of a dot there. Clean brush, dry it off pretty good and just go smudge it around like that. I like the lightness of that, but I would like to add in just a teeny little bit of the olive green because that's one of my faves. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of that over on this side here and pull a little bit of that down. And it's just not as wet as I wanted it to be over here. So again, I'm gonna take a clean brush that's not too wet and just kind of move that around and soften that a little bit so it's not so harsh. We're still waiting on these ones up here to dry. So then down here, I also have another bud with the flower coming out of it. but not opened up yet. So with this one down here, I'm actually going to just put a little bit of color, like such a little bit, because I want it to look, I want there to be more line work with the Micron pen than color, but just a little teeny hint of it. So we'll start with the bud part where the flower's coming out of, just ever such fine dots, and just a teeny bit of that hooker's green. Maybe one little dot, because we want this to be oh so subtle. You guys will really see once it's all finished why I want that, just because we're doing a little bit different line work. And that's enough of that already. Like, we don't want to overwork that. In fact, I might actually leave this flower bud untouched with paint and just straight do ink on it, just for something different, you guys, just for something different. Nothing too crazy, just a little something. And then we are going to get into these back here. So again, I don't want to do too much color on these ones in the background because we are going to be doing that line work, and I kind of want to see more line work mixed in with the ink, so we get to play a little bit more with that. So I don't want to overdo it, just the same as I went down here, but I do want a little bit of color. So I am going to get my lemon yellow. I'm going to put a dot, because so now this petal is going to be coming out the back side. There's the petal up the center, and then this one's going to kind of be poking around the side. And then we'll go with a little bit of that hooker's green, kind of close to that center. Clean off your brush. And then pull it up like so. So not a whole big bunch, but a little. Maybe I want a little bit more yellow in here. And then we can do this one on this side. Again, lemon yellow at the tip, just in here. And we'll go up with that yellow green. Clean off your brush, and we're just going to wiggle it up. That looks really good. And so I'm going to take a bit of that yellow green just on the tip of my brush and just kind of play around with that a bit, like so. I think that looks really great so far, you guys. I love, love, love how that's looking. So we're gonna leave that there with the paint, with doing it loosely. You guys can get out your number 1 Micron pen. We're gonna start with doing the pen detail here. So grab that pen out, and my painting is all ready to go. So I'm excited about that. So we're gonna start up here at the very top one. If you've ever seen an iris, their petals are there's lots of ripples in them. There we go, ripples is a good word. And so we're just gonna play around, but not too much, because we're gonna do double the amount of line work, okay? So we're gonna start coming up with this one here. And you don't have to press super hard. And just feel the feeling of creating and flowing with that. See how cool that looks? I think it just looks so good. And we can even add in more if we like as we go along. So we're going to do this one over here on the side now. And just kind of flow about with it. Yeah, I really like how that looks. I just think it's something fun and different. So carry on. See, that just gives a perfect amount of detail. We're going to go up on the back side here and up through the center. And you can add way more. You can go way out there. You know, you can just play around. And that's kind of what I started to do. I just was having fun. And I was like, you know what? I think a little bit more line work might look decent here. And so I just started to play. And that's kind of the fun part about just practicing and not everything having to be like a perfect masterpiece, is that you can just play around and then you don't feel bad if it doesn't turn out exactly what you want it. You'll learn something. And as you guys will hear in my tutorials as I, go along, it's like I have those moments too where I do something and I'm like, oops, shouldn't have done that. But we don't learn unless we play around and experiment. So, and then sometimes when you're doing that, you come up with the most amazing little designs and details. So there is actually one petal that's poking out the back here. That would have been the third petal coming down. You guys, there's no paint in it for a reason. I chose not to put paint in that one. Because I also chose not to put paint on this down here. So it just kind of gives a little bit more. And then, we could also have, another one kind of poking over here with no paint in it, which we can play around with once we get this totally done. So let's work on the stem now. So this is a bit more smooth, but to kind of keep it cohesive with the rest of the flower, I'm choosing to kind of do a little texture in, not maybe a ton, but just a bit. Oh, hey buddy. So we've got that done. And now we're going to work on this over here on this side then. So we'll start with the bud. I love how that looks. And then now the flower, but that's coming out of it. So if you feel at this point, hey, I like that. I don't want it to be too much more busy. I think that's perfect. Then great. Be done with it. Put it aside. And that's all good. We will continue on with this, but I am going to add in a little bit more line work. I'm going to add just a little bit of one up top here. Just the tip of a petal. And I may just go around and add a teeny bit more line work in just to add a little something. So the next step we're going to use is the Speedball calligraphy ink. So you got to shake it up really good because it settles quite a bit. The Winsor Newton ones settle way more than this one does. This one's really nice. I should look into see if they have more metallics in this Speedball one because I really do like it. So I'm using the gold. You can pick whatever color you want. I'm taking a little bit of that on my brush and I'm going in and filling in some of these gaps and just adding that into the gap. Say up here where you would see maybe a bit more of a highlight, like this maybe would look like a bit of the petal flipped over. Well, I'm just going in and painting that solid with that. Again, if you guys are just happy where it's at, you don't have to go in there and do this, but I quite enjoy how this looks once you add a little bit of that in there. So I'm going to go on this side too and just add that. Pick some spots throughout your flower if you want to do it. Of course, if you don't, don't do it. If you're not comfortable with that, or you don't have metallic ink, or you're just happy with where it's at, then stop while you're ahead. Because again, less is more, I find, when you're working with watercolor. It can get really out of control if you start to muck around too much. And then it starts to just look, and the painting just starts to look muddy. So where you feel comfortable, stop. And if you're loving this as well, let me know. It's always fun to try and explore new things when you're painting. And I think that's what I love the most about creating art, is that there's no two paintings the same, and it doesn't ever need to be. If you want a print of something, get a print made. You don't need to kind of replicate every single one you do. There's ways to get that if you so desire. So it's fun. You can just try new techniques all the time and always come up with something beautiful and something that to me is the most fun about painting. I know people often will say, I need to know what brush you're using. I need to know what color you're using. And more importantly, while I'm flattered that you guys are so inspired by exactly how I'm painting, is coming up with what you also love. You know, what is inspiring to you? I know that you obviously follow my channel because you enjoy the style of painting that I do. But it's totally cool to, you don't need to follow the exact colors I'm using because you can find perhaps something you like better on your own, you know? And so this is just giving you technique and ideas, creative ideas of what you can do with your watercolors, with your ink pens, with whatever you have. So don't be limited to just what I'm doing. Let yourself explore all of it without feeling like you're stuck in a box. I think that's such an important thing. I'm not sure if I've mentioned to you guys, but years ago, 24 years ago, I was in art school, a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. I did drop out after 2 years, but I was in art. And I get it. I was in university, and so I understand you got to learn all the basics of art. However, it really can put you into a box. And that was one thing I found. It was like, it wasn't teaching you how to find your own creative passion or your own creative style. I felt it was teaching you basically what other people have done. And that's all fine and dandy, but you were marked on it. And so I did good in art school. I thought I did terrible, but I am actually going to be returning back to school here soon. And so I was able to see my marks from my art classes, and they aren't terrible, but I remember just hating it because I didn't feel I had creative freedom to express myself. And perhaps that would have been different had I went to an art school entirely, but I was going to a university that had a fine arts program. And so it really pigeonholed me, and in fact, it frustrated me, and I stopped creating for probably 4 years after that because I was very discouraged. So it's absolutely huge to find your style and what you love and to explore that. And so yes, follow what I'm doing and be inspired by that. Text. Absolutely do that, because that's what's going to help you. That's what's going to help you to find your style, is by trying different things and new things and, you know, playing around. So yes, by all means, but don't be afraid to go and like load these up with lots of lines or no lines at all, or add way more metallic ink, or don't add any at all. Like, just play around. And that's like the biggest thing I want to encourage people to do with art more than anything, is to play. Because in life, how much do we get to play anymore as adults? We just don't do it as much anymore. And especially when you're creating something, when you're playing, that's when you get to find those really awesome techniques. That's how I've come to use Micron archival ink pen. That's how I've come to use the dot technique, just by playing around. All right, I think that looks amazing. So the last thing that I love to do with my paintings is I love to go and splatter on some ink. And I have come to the conclusion the reason I love that is because it reminds me of the pollen that's splattered on flowers from the pollinators getting in there and going to town with the pollen. So I know some people don't necessarily love that, and that's fine. You don't have to add that in there, but I do. It's just one thing that I really love, and so I do it with almost every single painting I have. I just feel like it just adds that little touch to it. So I load up my brush. I think you guys can see me there, yeah. And I load it up, and I like to start by concentrating a lot of that into the center with big glops. Yep, just like that. And then as I move outward, I like to still have some splatter, but I like it to become more fine as we move outward. I think that looks beautiful. That's super bright and springy. I love that. And then if you want to, you can sign your painting. I do every single one. I just do. It's become a habit of mine. Wherever you so desire with the year. It's kind of interesting for me to go back and look on all these and see how far I've come. But that is going to do it for that little tutorial, you guys. So fun, a little more whimsical with the line work. And I think that with doing this extra line work, it's just the beginning of where we can really go with it. One of the very last things that I do once the gold ink is dry is I go in and I just double check these lines around there. So you can see there, I've gone over the line, the black line a little bit. So in order to kind of make it pop again, I just go over that. So that's just where the gold metallic ink is. So I'm just going back over them, or around them, I should say, to give that pop that maybe has been dulled down from the metallic ink, because I don't always stay right in the line. So that's one more thing that I do. I shouldn't have splattered the paint on until I had done this, but I got a little ahead of myself, you guys. And as per usual, you guys, if you have loved this tutorial, please give me a like. And if you don't already subscribe to my channel, please give me a subscribe. As you know, the more you guys engage with my channel, the more that my channel gets pushed out and my videos get pushed out to other viewers. So then more people can enjoy the tutorials just the same as you do. That is going to do it there for that tutorial. I think it looks very springy and very fun. Okay, you guys, I am so excited to hear what you think of this tutorial. That is very springy as far as I'm concerned. Love that. So let me know what you think. Again, if you have any questions, ask away, comments, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And the one thing that I love so much about doing a tutorial like this is that now that you have kind of the technique down, you can repeat this exact same tutorial with every single color combination you can think of in this exact style and have like 100 different paintings by playing around and having fun. So while I did just show you one flower, you guys can make so many iris paintings just by this. And the more that you paint them, the more refined they'll get, the more whimsical they'll get. Just play around. So that is one of the funnest things. Even when I'm done doing the tutorial, I sometimes will just plop that to the side and then I will just play around for a couple hours. Just the same thing that I'm telling you guys to do. Start playing with different color combinations. Play with colors that you don't typically put together. I do that all of the time. When I'm not doing a tutorial and I just want to be creative, I just get in there and I just start playing around. And because I have done this now, I can do this exact same picture so many more times and have a different outcome every single time. So that's the fun thing about art, you guys, and that's what I love so much about it. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today in this tutorial. I hope you guys have a really, really great week and have fun being creative, and I will see you guys next week in the next tutorial. Thanks so much for watching, you guys.